Welcome to The Joyful Exchange, a podcast from Foundation for the Nations, also known as FFTN.
Ever wish there was a philanthropic, Christ-centered giving vehicle where you decide the giving and have fun doing it? Welcome to FFTN.
FFTN aims to draw together Youth for Christ projects from around the world with those who have the capacity to help them. Our motto is wealth into worth for the world, and our desire is to help those who are cash rich but time poor to make good decisions about where to invest their hard-earned money. Our FFTN staff and board have over 200 years' experience in working within the Youth for Christ family. Youth for Christ uniquely reaches young people in ways that are relevant to them in the context of their culture and life circumstances, giving every young person in every nation an opportunity to be a follower of Jesus Christ. For more details, see the links in the podcast bio.
Good morning, folks. You join us on the Joyful Exchange for our final episode in this Balkans series. Now, I have got to know the regional director, Ruben Sechin, very well over these last few days, and I've realized that he's a big fan of breakfast. So, Ruben, tell us, why is breakfast the most important meal of the day?
It's good to be with you, Simon. And yeah, it's longer than just here in the Balkans, right?
That's right. We go way back.
Way back. But breakfast, I don't know. Breakfast is my main meal. Also having diabetes, I think that was the reason why I took breakfast so serious.
Yeah.
Be ready for the day.
I'm a cup of coffee guy in the morning, and then I get stuck into life. But my wife Hannah just absolutely loves breakfast. So,
and nobody can start without a coffee.
Oh well, that's it. It doesn't matter where you're from. Everybody needs a coffee. Yeah. So we have been on the road, and Ruben was reminding me about his love of go-karting. Actually, I think we have experienced some go-karting as we have driven between the different nations. Ruben, first of all, just tell us, before we get to each of the nations, just tell us a little bit about you and how you came to be involved in the role as regional director, and then just give us a kind of picture of what life is like in the Balkans for these different national leaders.
When you ask me how everything started, it's a long story, and we certainly have no time for everything. My journey with God started early on when I was 14, even during Yugoslavia time, involved in conferences, in preaching, even youth leading, and that set kind of the rest of my life, I guess. Very active in the church. Then I became very sick. I almost died because of something that I had on my lung, and I had to go through a heart surgery, and it was a question if I will stay alive or not. But I obviously stayed alive.
Yes, praise God. Yeah.
That was the moment when I felt God gave me a second chance. And I said, God gave me a second chance in this life for a reason.
Yeah.
Then reason I wanna pursue. I wanna be yours, and I wanna do ministry. I wanna serve you in any way I can.
Yeah.
Not long after, a guy from Britain came, Andy, who was starting youth work through Youth for Christ in Croatia after Yugoslavia breaking apart. And I thought, wow, is this, the ministry that you are showing me, Lord? And the rest is history. I started Youth for Christ.
And how old were you then when you started Youth for Christ in Croatia?
23, very young.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, am I a good fit for being a leader, starting an organization from scratch, from zero? But I think that's something that I like about Youth for Christ also. They equip young leaders.
Yeah.
I immediately went to Britain and Northern Ireland, by the way, and had some training there. I think that was to ensure me, yes, I'm in the right place and I should pursue that and work for Youth for Christ. I should use Youth for Christ platform to get to the new generation. When I was 23, I started Youth for Christ Croatia, and then I'm working for Youth for Christ almost now 29 years with some break of theological education again, that Youth for Christ sent me to and
Yeah.
helped me to pay for. So it was this involvement in Youth for Christ, 29 years in total. And it was such a blessing the whole time. Having a platform and having the privilege to work full time
Yeah.
to help young people find Jesus, that was special.
Who were maybe like one or two key mentors during those early stages? Were there people that were healthy models of leadership and all of that?
Some listeners will remember Jean-Jacques Weiler. He was the area director back at that time. Lower Shepherd, who was the national director of Britain. Johnny Baker. Johnny Baker was such a great influence on my life and my leadership. Even later, he would help us a lot with burnout or something. He would be there as a mentor. He would help us as well. So Johnny Baker, definitely. Andy Harrington, who started the youth work in my church and then asked me to start Youth for Christ in Croatia.
It's just wonderful to hear that you've been in it for the long game, but you've had what you've needed at the time that you've needed it.
Oh yeah, I cannot miss John Duncan, who had such an influence on me, a positive influence. Just a leader that I looked up to.
Yeah, wow.
And he's still around, right? And he's working a lot. And I know him since then. He's always hard worker. He had this positivity, this humor, this approach. Everybody loved him. Kids love him. I said, oh, this is a great leader. He invited us for a fundraising training in Northern Ireland. And again, it was him to push me further or push my boundaries and to learn from these great leaders like him.
Excellent. That's wonderful to hear. And then thinking of, before we get into the sort of the details of each of the nations that you're either looking to pioneer or you're helping to encourage, thinking about young people in the Balkans region, like what are some of the needs there? What are some of the stresses and strains that young people are experiencing? If you could speak to that, that would be wonderful.
We heard that from other national directors around the Balkans, the need for security. They don't know in the Balkan region if they will make it, if they will have enough money for life. The biggest challenge, how to stay in your own country, but they rather think how to finish school and then as soon as possible get into a country like Germany or Austria or Switzerland, elsewhere in the West, where they can make more money and or have less than 3 jobs so they can survive. So the quality of life is very important to them.
Yeah.
But I think one of the key problems I see among young people is loneliness and not being listened to, especially social networks. You have so many friends, but you have none friends because it's all virtual. And then when you need a real friend, and then you actually see that you are alone and have somebody side by side who you can talk to without being judged, it's about how can I hear what they are saying, their story. Everybody has their own story. It's a wonderful thing that I've heard from some Youth for Christ organizations. It's about our story, God's story, and my story, like the whole package. So do we do that in Youth for Christ? That was always my question. How can I provide that to young people? But the young people in the Balkans, they are unsecure, and Youth for Christ can help them actually to find their identity in God, in Jesus, and then your focus changes. And all of a sudden, it's not only about surviving money, it's also about the values in life.
Yeah.
Where do you feel home?
Yeah.
I think that some people that left are coming back to their own countries.
Interesting.
They find themselves, oh, this is my culture, this is where I belong.
Yeah.
Belonging has always been...
It's huge, isn't it? Belonging and significance.
Yeah. You belong first.
Yeah.
And then the change comes gradually. You change and you learn from mistakes, from challenges. The other thing is that young people grew up in a challenged time. Yeah. Hearing about the war. The new generation didn't experience the war. They're too young, but they listen.
I think too, they're bombarded. This idea, this global village now that we all live in because of social media, that they're bombarded with other wars that are happening around the world. Whereas maybe when we were young, we maybe saw that on the news or read it in the paper or something like that. But now it's creeping onto everybody's feed. And it's like you're saying, that insecurity, that instability that you see even in other parts of the world. that can bring a bit of stress and strain even into your own world, you know? Things don't seem as stable as what they should be.
Today, in a global
Yeah.
kind of society, the war came closer than ever
Yeah.
to every nation.
Yeah.
To every nation, nowhere there is no
Yeah.
safe place.
Yeah.
The only safe place is actually being with Jesus.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. We started out on the road and our first stop was in Albania. Just talk to us about the ministry there in Albania and just give us one highlight even from our time there with Jonathan Pano, who's the national director.
Youth for Christ Albania started in 1912, and then they had a kind of a pause.
So that would have been 2012. 1912 would have been too far.
2012, sorry.
I was going to
Starting
say,
again.
no, it's okay. I was going to say Jonathan Pano doesn't look that old. Or if he did, he's weathering very well. So yeah, when was it started?
Youth for Christ Albania started in 2012, and they had a break because of financial reasons. And then I came on board as a regional director and tried to see how we can reopen Youth for Christ. And because Youth for Christ was still kind of running all the time, the basics,
Yes.
it was easy to reconnect with the same people. And then Johnny came to an age where he wanted to pursue ministry and mission.
Yeah.
And thought about restarting, and that's how we started again. And
Yeah.
it was thankfully to FFDN, actually, Albania Youth for Christ started again fresh and started to touch young lives, especially the Roma community.
That's right.
That we had an opportunity to be in a couple days ago. You remember they had dirty hands, and then you see doctors, pediatricians, this professor of mathematics or whatever, people that are high educated and have their own job, but in the day, instead of taking a break, they go to the Roma village and help out the kids.
That was just such an incredible challenge for us to see that well-educated people, hardworking, but like you say, giving up their break to just come and serve these kids, the least of the least, on the outskirts of the city, living by a river as Roma, and just loving them, sharing a meal with them, sharing the gospel with them. Johnny was in the thick of all of that. So that was, I think that was a project about revitalization of the work in Albania, and the focus, like you say, has been the Roma. What else is encouraging you about what's happening in Albania as well?
You know, I think we are aware in the Balkans that we cannot have 150 staff.
Yeah,
That's not going to happen
yeah,
in no country. But what we can do is equip.
yeah,
And I think that we have amazing trainings and tools and ministry models.
Yeah.
And things that we can offer needs to be in cooperation with the local church. And that's what Albania is doing well. Organizing youth leadership training, equipping young people that they can reach the new generation in their own community. When I come and open Youth for Christ, I say Youth for Christ cannot be closed in your own church.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
yeah.
Youth for Christ needs to be open
To all churches.
all churches,
Yeah.
every denomination. And the second point is we are not a para-church organization. We want to be coming alongside the church.
Yeah.
We want to work with the local church and kind of be an agency almost, right? To provide what is needed to reach the young people, to offer our expertise that we have and all the materials like Superwoman and Rock Solid. I mean, we have brilliant programs.
Excellent. We packed up and got back into the car and then headed for the hills.
Sorry. Do you remember we were going to share really fast if the listeners were wondering how they could get involved? We actually have two practical ways that they can do this. So the first way is, as an enabling partner, you can commit to pray, and if you'd like, contribute monthly to help the foundation keep its wheels on the road. The other way is, as a project partner, you can sit around the table at one of our annual gatherings and give your hard-earned cash with confidence to some of these wonderful projects that we've been discussing.
We drove to Kosovo through some wonderful scenery, mountains covered in snow, valleys, canyons, all of that type of stuff. Let's just point people to the video that we shot. if they're interested. Tell us then, Kosovo has a whole other dynamic. So talk a little bit about Kosovo and what the makeup there is in terms of faith and church life. And then we can just reflect then on maybe one or two highlights from that time.
Yeah, Kosovo is over 90% Muslim. And that means also using ministry in another kind of way.
Yeah.
Being more an organization that cares for the community. They had this center called House of Hope that is in the middle of a Muslim community. And you remember that the house, the story was that it used to be a house of torture and killing and prison during the war. Then it became a house of drugs and prostitution, and everybody avoided that house. It seemed like that this house is cursed and that it's a dark place, something that you don't want to even approach. And then, God
Put his hand on it.
put his hand on something that we think is not possible.
Yeah.
And the miracle starts. And this same house becomes a community hub where so many kids find refuge, where so many women start to learn about sewing, and they learn a new language, English. Yeah, and they start to be part of the community. So this House of Hope is definitely one of the highlights. They are cooperating with a local church. They do superwoman with girls, and you heard that it's tough sometimes for girls and boys that are coming from a Muslim background and families. Even when they start to believe in Jesus, they don't know how to publicly accept Jesus, publicly say, yes, I am a believer, a Christian, because they're afraid they will be rejected by their own community, by their own parents. So it's different.
It's a courageous step to put faith in Jesus. It's like, homes are split because you have one person choosing Christ and the other one not.
At the same time, you have a family that a girl found security in Superwoman Club. And then she started sharing her troubles at home, and her mom came with her to a church that actually helped them out in these hardships they've been going through. And they both became Christian. You see the fruit of Superwoman and of projects. They have camps. They do many things actually in a country like that.
I think I remember the statistic was about 2,000 Christians in the whole of Kosovo was the number.
In the same time, it's the youngest.
And it's the youngest population
in the world. Over 65%, 70 of them.
Are less than 30 years of age. Yeah, it's incredible. Wonderful to see. I think a common theme that I have seen throughout each of the nations that we've been to and the national leaders is how well integrated they are in the local community. Sometimes we're walking along the road and our conversation is interrupted several times by them greeting people that they know. It encouraged me to see that, because what it's saying is, even though we're talking about projects and funding projects, they're investing in growing community and creating opportunities for people to come to know Christ and be disciples. So it's wonderful to see. We took a short break, and then we got back on the road again, and we left Kosovo and we drove to Macedonia, which wasn't too far away, about an hour and 30 minutes. We arrived at a coffee shop. Tell us a little bit about the work in Macedonia and what's encouraging you about that.
First of all, I never thought in my life that I will be the one like Apostle Paul. Traveling and be a missionary to Macedonia, right?
Yeah.
I don't compare myself to Apostle Paul, no way. But nevertheless, going in the footsteps of Apostle Paul and being there, it was amazing to start a ministry there. And I started from zero to reach out to pastors and youth pastors. And again, and I told you about the principle that I have. We don't come just to plant the flag of Youth of Christ in the country. It's about relationship with the local church. So I asked them first, do you need us? I gathered pastors, youth pastors, and asked them, do you need us? If you need us, we'll come and help you to reach the new generation for Christ. So when we came to the cafe, opened less than a year ago, and you see already Igor and Melanie around the community, not just coming to drink coffee, a good cup of coffee. They talk to them, greet them, they hug them. You see this connection they have to the community because they understand when you have a relationship and the trust that the people are not just numbers, then the authenticity happens. And I think one thing that young people like today is authenticity.
Yes.
They want to live authentic faith, and through relationship and trust, that's when the Christian magic starts.
I think what encouraged me too, just being with them, was that God was in their story long before they arrived at this moment in their lives where Igor had been gaining skills in business and maybe had some entrepreneurial things of his own. And then Melanie had been working part-time in a bakery and learning the art of making cakes. And then all of a sudden you arrive at this moment in their lives where they're now married, they've opened a business, and her cakes are like world famous because influencers from Macedonia in sports, in all sorts of stuff, are coming to the coffee shop. They're getting to experience this authenticity that you've just talked about and welcome within that community. And then they're beginning to share pictures of these amazing cakes, and then the word is getting out, and then people are coming. And it's brilliant to see. I think what I loved about that was that it's hard to see where the business starts and ends and the ministry starts and ends. It's all blended. They're living missionally by serving the community through business. And that really encouraged me to see. And then even to hear Igor talk about they'd initially asked the foundation for 50% seed money to get the coffee shop up and running. The other 50% they would generate in the first year of business. And in less than a year, they're already covering their costs. And then they'll be starting to make profit, which is just fantastic to see. It just encourages us again that business as mission works.
But again, it's what I always highlight, and that was my motivation when I was the national director of YFC Croatia. It's about finding the voice of your country.
Yeah.
What's the voice of your country? What is your culture like? How can we, Youth for Christ, make the difference, but through the culture and mentality of the country? And I think they really understood what it means to be a coffee culture.
Yeah.
We tend to take coffee to go, right? And have the coffee in the car or elsewhere. And it's something very fast. It's a moment in your life and you forget it. Coffee in our culture, it's a moment of relationship. It's a moment of talking to each other, to connect. It's not about the coffee, because you don't have much of coffee, especially if you order an espresso. You have just a little espresso. They say this kind of little espresso can last for 2 hours. And you would think, how can that last for this 3-4 sips of coffee in 2 hours? It's about the whole what's happening around that coffee, right?
See, that has been an education for me because I'm reluctant to buy an espresso because I think I'm not spending €3 for one mouthful of coffee. But when you say you can make it last 2 hours, that helps me because that's why I would go for a latte or a cappuccino because you feel like you're getting more for your money.
Yes. And you get friendship and the relationship.
Yeah, well, see, that's priceless.
Yeah, definitely.
No.
So I think that to see that amazing thing is how God prepared them during their own life, and what you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
They had this, going through all this experience and education and everything. The process to find Melanie was a long process. It was over 2 years that I tried to find a leader for Youth for Christ.
Yeah.
And you don't actually know in the background that God is growing and preparing somebody for you. But then see God miraculously showing you the person that he prepared for you.
Well, listen, they also offer things like they have a youth Bible study group that meet in the coffee shop on Tuesday afternoons, a superwoman group or a women's group that meet Wednesday afternoons. They have some other things that are happening as well. And they're working in partnership with the likes of Crew that are maybe using their facility and IFEs and others. So it's a real hub of community, a real place to disciple and encourage young people in their faith. So we said goodbye to Melanie and Igor and we hopped in the car again. We had a longer journey this time, 6 hours on the road. We made our way down to Serbia and that's where we are at the moment. We're in Serbia. Tell us a little bit about the work in Serbia and just how things are going there.
You will certainly hear more about Serbia from Kiki. Serbia, I would say every ministry has its up and downs and struggles and hardships. I think that's also considered to be normal.
Yeah.
In that time, we also need to learn as Youth for Christ to stand beside a national director and be an encouragement rather than missing something or regretting something. I think it's a time of being the shoulder.
Yeah.
See, okay, there are some transitions going on. How can we help Youth for Christ in that transition? Nevertheless, Kiki is very active.
Yeah.
Active as a church planter, active as Youth for Christ in the sense of working with youth through camps in summertime. One thing that I would also, in connection with Kiki, mention is the festival, the Balkan Festival that we had last year that he was involved in. I want to highlight also because Balkan region went through so many tensions, war in the past, and not working together.
Mm-hmm.
You have churches that don't work together in one city, right? But it was even harder to work together among the countries.
Yeah.
2.5 years ago, we came together as leaders in Bosnia, pastors, youth pastors, organizations like Crew, Youth for Christ, IFES, all these different organizations and from different denominations.
Yeah.
And we came together and said, we need to work together. The collaboration is so important. And we made it happen. We organized a wonderful festival that was visited by 1,300, 400 young people. We had 300 volunteers. We had 60 workshops. We had 20 concerts. We had sport events, tournaments. We had evangelization in the city of Šibenik. It was kind of beautiful to see how in the differences we found one thing that we have in common, and that's Jesus Christ, and that is enough.
Yeah.
We are different, but if we find that, break the bread and drink the same wine, that's what it is all about.
Yeah.
And so the festival was a great success. It's kind of continuing every 4 years. Mm-hmm. But Kiki was playing a really important role in all this. Part of the worship team, doing concerts at one point, leading the main stage and connecting all the people. That's his passion is there.
I think what I hear you saying about that is YFC Serbia is in a sort of state of transition and rethinking and reimagining what this next season looks like.
Well, the good news is that he already starts with Superwoman in Belgrade because he moved to a bigger city now. Yeah. I see also in the future the coffee shop restarting, maybe even a better situation.
For YFC Serbia and just our listeners, they opened a coffee shop in Mitrovica, a smaller town just outside of Belgrade. COVID was happening. It was virtually impossible to meet in coffee shops then. So they experienced a lot of environmental issues in terms of outside of themselves that they could have had foreknowledge of. And that made it extremely difficult then to have a business as mission coffee shop in a time where the whole world was on standby waiting to see what would happen next with COVID. I would imagine that takes its toll on anybody, and there was lots of people that was very difficult for. So we understand, and I think our partners are the same, that sometimes there are projects that maybe don't go the way we had hoped because of reasons that were outside of what anybody could have foreseen. I think that's just when you have to hold your hand up and say, look, we're going to regroup, we're going to rethink, and like you say, in a place of transition, and think about what does the future look like. It's so encouraging for me to hear about this initiative within the Balkans of Srce, but that's bringing lots of people together from different nations, different backgrounds. And I suppose, Ruben, as I have spent time with you, that sort of echoes what your heart is about bringing people together from different communities and different walks of life to find their calling and then set out to reach the young people of their home nation. Any final thoughts just as we wrap up the podcast and bring our time to a close?
One thing that Youth for Christ is good in is to be a catalyzer and help the church to bridge the gap between the new generation and the church. There are certain gaps, A lot of
Yeah.
organization need to rethink how to do mission, pause, or also forget some models and
Yeah.
things we used to do and were
Yeah.
very successful but are not working today. So we have to stop in time, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's why Serbia is not unique. And I think it happens all over the world where youth for Christ need to rethink their ministry. But nevertheless, I think that we can be this bridge for churches. The other thing that I wanted to say is that we need to also help the teaching of faith starts at home. So how can we intentionally make programs for parents? Teenagers are watching their own parents at their home, and that's where it starts. I have a feeling that today parents rely a lot on church, but it's not only the church, it's also what happens at home. How can we set an example? Kids don't see us reading Bible or praying or having these values of Christianity at home, then the church can do nothing about it.
I know, but even that's a hard one, because many of the young people Youth for Christ are reaching are probably those that aren't found in the local church.
Yeah.
So then they're going back into homes of parents that don't know Jesus either. And I think it's that idea of spiritual surrogacy, where we're, as Youth for Christ, walking alongside young people and helping them to grow into the faith. We have this little segment at the end called the Joyful Six. So I'm going to throw 6 questions at you, and if you can give me an answer.
Here we go. What one word would your friends use to describe you?
Trustworthy.
Very good. Okay. Tea or coffee?
Coffee for sure.
A scripture or a quote that's inspiring you right now?
For a long time, one verse inspires me. It's from Psalm 20, and it says, "Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we depend and trust in the Lord,
Amen.
our God." And I think that, that's kind of something that guides me through my leadership.
One place in the Balkans, in the region, that you think everyone should experience?
Well, it's a hard way to...
When I said that out loud, I just realized how problematic that could be for you.
It can be...
Okay.
I would say so small, a small
Okay. Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
You can easily go by car.
And go everywhere.
You start in Croatia, or if you are on the other side in
Bulgaria or somewhere.
Bulgaria,
Yeah.
Greece,
Yeah.
then you go up and through the region, because every region is unique in their culture and customs.
We have experienced some of that. Maybe that's an open invitation to people to just, fly yourself over here, rent a car, go around all of the Balkans. It definitely is a beautiful place. If you weren't in ministry, what's another role you could see yourself doing?
Some kind of management. I've been offered in my life also to manage a whole hotel, a Christian hotel center, but it hasn't consumed me. I'm dedicating my life towards the young people, and that's my passion. I still like play board games and table tennis and sport and everything that the young people like becomes lore. One issue. But nevertheless, my heart is...
Yeah. We used to joke all the time, the only qualification you need for youth ministry is to be able to play table tennis. I think there's a little more than that. Great. Okay, the last one. What's bringing you joy in this season of your life?
Seeing the ministry grow and seeing the fruit of... It's not about me, but you realize that you can plan only this far. And then you see actually that your plan is nothing without God's plan. To see that in difficult situations and hardships, faith can grow and people are coming to Christ. There are different challenges, and I don't see challenges as a problem. I see challenges as bringing us closer to God.
Yeah.
And that's been true in the whole history of humanity. Challenges bring people closer to God, and I think through challenges in the Balkans, you see people worshiping and coming to Christ and getting transformed. And we are doing such an important work. That's an honor.
Yeah.
Blessing God's commandment. Everyone is called. Everyone is sent. What God has placed in your hands is sacred and supernatural. Offer it, share it, release it. Help others to do the same.
Wow. I was going to say mic drop moment,
Yes.
but wow. I think we're going to shut up now. Ruben, it's been such a pleasure to take on this road trip together and see all these different nations and to see what the Lord is doing all across the Balkans. We realise there's other nations that you're working into as well. And I suppose just on behalf of the partners as well, is to say thank you. You applied for this project back in 24, which was to help support you getting on the road, basically, with a car and with means to get around the Balkans and some salary support and stuff like that. We appreciate the invitation to partner with you and to partner in these nations of the Balkans.
To the FFTN partners, I need to say that the partners are not just partners to FFTN, they're partners to the region.
Yeah.
They invested in.
Yeah.
And I hope you saw how the investment was going into the right direction.
Yeah.
I see that. I see ministry growing. I see 3-4 years involvement of more than 30 people, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting time.
Yeah.
I'm thankful because of FFTN, many things wouldn't be possible. And so thank you very much for that.
I hope you like a warm beverage, because for all those that feature on the podcast, we have a little thank you. Our No Mug mug, inspired by the words of Jim Elliot, the famous American missionary. He is no mug, that is, he is no fool, who gives up what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. One of those is on its way to you. And to our listeners, we hope you'll join us for another joyful exchange, when we'll be featuring inspiring conversations with visionary partners, ministry leaders, and change agents who are transforming wealth into worth for the world.
Foundation for the Nations is a Christ-centered giving vehicle facilitating Christian philanthropy and kingdom-minded investment, creating opportunities to make an eternal difference in the lives of young people around the globe served by Youth for Christ. You've been listening to the Joyful Exchange podcast. For more details, see www.fftn.org/joyfulexchange.